There is an ocean of everything you want: success, power, and the most satisfying relationships. It's all available and waiting for you. This is The Zone of Action with your host, Gerald Action Jackson.
All right, let's talk about something simple on the surface, but powerful when you really understand it. I want you to picture this. You're out to dinner with 5 or 6 people. Good restaurant, good energy. Everybody's laughing, talking, sharing ideas. It feels like one of those nights where something meaningful is happening. Not just a meal, but a moment. Then the bill comes and everything changes. Now all of a sudden the phones come out. Somebody says, all right, who had what? Another person is scrolling through the menu trying to remember if they ordered the salmon or the steak. Somebody else is calculating tax. Another person is calculating tip. Then here come the payment apps. I'll send you $12. No, you owe me $14. Wait, I didn't have a drink. And just like that, the energy drops. What was a great experience turns into a small negotiation. Now let me show you a different version of that same night. Same restaurant, same group, same good energy. The bill comes, and before it even hits the table, someone reaches for it and says, I got it. No announcement, no speech, no trying to impress anybody. Just handled. Conversation continues. Nobody pulls out a calculator. Nobody starts breaking down numbers. The flow stays intact. The relationships stay intact. The moment stays elevated. Now, here's the truth. That moment is not about the money. It never was. It's about mindset. And more importantly, it's about how people perceive you in that moment, whether you realize it or not. See, most people think wealth is about how much money you have. That's part of it, but it's not the foundation. The foundation is how you think about money, how you move around money, and how you let money affect your relationships. When someone gets tight over small amounts, when they start dissecting a bill down to the last dollar, what they're really showing is not financial discipline. What they're showing is a scarcity mindset. And listen, I'm not here to judge anybody. We've all been there at some point. But if you want to elevate, if you want access to bigger opportunities, you have to start thinking differently. Because here's what happens in real time. While you're focused on splitting $12, somebody else at that table is observing. They're not saying anything. They're just watching. They're asking themselves questions like, can I trust this person in a bigger situation? If they are this detailed and protective over small money, how are they going to act when we're talking about real money? Are they operating from fear, or are they operating from confidence? You may not even know you're being evaluated, but you are. See, high-level people don't just listen to what you say, they watch how you move. And the smallest moments tell the biggest stories. Let me say that again. The smallest moments tell the biggest stories. Because if someone feels like you are constantly protecting yourself, constantly guarding every dollar, constantly calculating, it creates a certain type of energy. And that energy does not invite big opportunities. Nobody is bringing a major deal, a partnership, or a life-changing opportunity to the person who argues over $5. Nobody. Not because they're bad people, but because trust is everything at higher levels. And trust is built through behavior, not conversation. Now, on the flip side, when someone handles the bill with ease, it sends a completely different signal. It says, I'm comfortable. It says, I'm thinking long term. It says, I value this relationship more than this momentary expense. That doesn't mean they're trying to show off. In fact, the most powerful people don't make a big deal out of it at all. They just handle it and move on because they understand something most people miss. Access is more valuable than saving a few dollars. Let's talk about that. Access. There are rooms you can't Google. There are conversations you can't schedule. There are opportunities that don't come with an announcement. They come through relationships. They come through trust. They come from people saying, I like how he moves. I like how he carries himself. I feel comfortable bringing him into something bigger. And sometimes that starts with something as simple as how you handle the dinner. You think it's just dinner. They see it as a preview. Now, let me be clear about something, because this is important. This is not about being irresponsible with money. This is not about putting yourself in a bad financial position just to impress people. That's not the message at all. The message is about understanding value. There's a difference between being cheap and being disciplined. Discipline is strategic. Discipline says, I'm going to invest where it matters. Cheap says, I'm going to protect every dollar, even if it costs me relationships. And that's a losing strategy because relationships are the gateway to everything. Business, partnerships, ideas, growth, opportunities, all of it flows through people. So if you damage the relationship over something small, what are you really saving? Let me give you a perspective shift. Let's say that dinner costs $600. Hey, to some people, that's a lot. And that's understandable. But what if that dinner leads to a conversation, and that conversation leads to trust, and that trust leads to a deal, and that deal is worth tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe even more over time? Now tell me, was that dinner expensive? Or was it an investment? See, wealthy thinkers look at it differently. They're not just looking at the cost, they're looking at the return. They're asking, what can come from this? And more importantly, how do I position myself in a way that people want to build with me? Because at the end of the day, people don't do business with people they don't trust. And trust is built in moments just like that. Moments where you have a choice. Do I focus on the transaction or do I focus on the relationship? Let me say something that might stick with you. Cheap is not saving money. Cheap is losing access. Cheap is creating friction. Cheap is turning a great experience into an uncomfortable one. Cheap is signaling to the room that you're operating from limitation instead of possibility. And again, this is not about judgment. This is about awareness, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now let's take it a step further. When you become the person who creates ease, people remember that. They remember how you made them feel. They remember that when they were around you, things flowed. There was no tension. There was no awkwardness. There was no unnecessary friction. And that matters more than you think, because people want to be around people who make life easier, not harder. People want to collaborate with individuals who remove problems, not create them. And sometimes removing the problem is as simple as saying, I got it. That's leadership, not loud leadership, not performative leadership. Quiet, confident leadership. Now, here's another layer to this. When you operate from abundance, it doesn't mean you have unlimited money. It means you have a mindset that says, I'm going to continue to create. I'm going to continue to grow. I'm not going to let small things limit my behavior. That mindset is powerful because it changes how you show up in every area of your life. It changes how you network. It changes how you build relationships. It changes how people perceive you. And perception matters, not in a fake way, but in a real human way. People are always making decisions about you based on what they observe. So the question becomes, what are you showing them? Are you showing them someone who is focused on small wins or someone who is positioned for big opportunities? Because you can't say you want big opportunities and then move like someone who is afraid of small losses. That's a contradiction, and people can feel that. Let me bring this home. The next time you're at that table and the bill comes, just pause for a second. Don't react automatically. Think about what that moment represents. Think about the impression you're making. Think about the opportunity in front of you, not just the cost in front of you. And if it makes sense, if you're in a position to do it, take the lead. Handle it. Not for recognition, not for applause, but because you understand the bigger game, because you understand that relationships are assets, because you understand that trust is currency, because you understand that access can change your life. And it often starts in the most ordinary moments: a dinner, a conversation, a decision. Remember this: broke thinking protects the bill. Wealth thinking protects the relationship. And the people who win at the highest levels, they are always playing the long game. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter, JeroldJax, on Facebook, Gerald Action Jackson and Zone of Action. Check out the website, GeraldJackson.com. Happiness starts with you. Not with your relationship, not with your job, not with your money, but with you in the zone of action.